morning is Eliza Bird. Eliza's title of her speech is Ignorance of the Law is No Excuse. Eliza is doing project number 6 from the Competent Communication Manual, focusing on vocal variety. Eliza worked as an attorney in California for 23 years. She feels American schools should teach more about legal concepts that govern our lives. As they do not, today she will review some material you really need to know. The timing for her speech is 5 to 7 minutes. Please help me welcome Eliza.
What I'm going to tell you today is for your own protection. None of us think we're going to die. But the truth is, we all will. Everybody in this room is going to die. So I'm going to tell you some legal things that may be relevant when, not if, you pass away. And I'm only going to talk about rules that are applicable for single people, no matter how eccentric, just to keep it simpler. So you do know that you can make a will, and that disposes of your property to whoever you want, except, and those are the really big exceptions, and there are all kinds of them, but 2 really important ones are beneficiary designations and the whole matter of joint tenancy, which can get pretty tricky. Now, joint tenancy is best if you remember it by its full name, which is joint tenancy by right of survivorship. And why that's so important is that, say my brother and I have a house in common, and we take title as joint tenants. That means that whichever one of us lives the longer gets the whole house. So if that's what you intend, joint tenancy by right of survivorship works fine. But in North Carolina, joint bank accounts are treated like they're joint tenancy. So let's look at the case of Sam. Sam, he was a good guy. His wife had died years before, but he hated to spend money. So he got a friend to help him, and they went on the internet, and he made a will, which you can do, a perfectly valid will in North Carolina. And he gave his property in equal shares to his 3 children, Dick, Harry, and Sally. And felt really good that he had his affairs in order. And he passed away, and then there were all kinds of problems. First thing that happened is his kids went to the bank. And they said, hi, you know, Daddy banked here. He had checking and savings accounts, so we want to withdraw the money. And they said at the bank, oh, so sorry, those accounts have been closed. And the kids said, what? And they said, oh, yes, Susie, you know his neighbor. She was in here a couple days after he died. It was a joint account, and she took all the money. And they said, but he wouldn't have wanted that. And they said, you're going to have to take it up with Susie. So they went over to Susie's house and said, oh, here, you know, Daddy wrote a will. You know, you can see it right here. It says it's everything he owned is to go to us equally. Obviously, there was some misunderstanding about those bank accounts, but I'm sure you'll make the appropriate arrangements. And Susie said, I don't think so. She said, you know, years ago, your dad asked to put my name on his bank accounts. And I said, okay. And then he had me paying all of his bills. I did his tax returns for years. I did all kinds of favors to him. I took him to the doctors. And you know, he never paid me a penny to reimburse me for all of the services I provided him. But then after he died, when I went to the bank to see what happened next, they said, oh, because my name was on the account, I was entitled to everything in it, both checking and savings, so I went through them. And I'm really grateful to your father. He did care about me, he did provide for me, and I'm going to keep the money. Well, this was a little upsetting. And then they were looking through the papers and found a life insurance policy. And they contacted the company, it was valid, and the company said, yes, there's a beneficiary designation. A beneficiary designation tells who gets the money, regardless of what a will says. So the beneficiary designation said that Sally got the money. It had been done a long time ago. She was a freshman in college at the time. The boys had graduated and were on their own. And so the brothers turned to Sally and said, Sally, you know what Dad wanted? obviously they're gonna pay you the money, but you will distribute it to all of us. And Sally said, oh, no, actually, you know Daddy always had a sweet spot for me. And if he had wanted to, he could have changed that beneficiary designation to do all three of us anytime he wanted to, but he didn't. So I'm really grateful. I'm just gonna keep the money. Well, there was still the house left, so the three kids went to a good real estate broker, like Phil. And Phil got a hold of the title to the real property. He said, did you guys know this was joint tenancy? And they said, what? He said, yeah, your father put it in joint tenancy between him and Dick, the oldest son. And they said, what does that mean? They said, well, joint tenancy means that it's in the two names for life, and when one person dies, it belongs totally to the other one. And they said, what? And Dick said, I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know anything about this. And they said, well, then you're going to make it right. You're going to give us our shares. And Dick said, no, I think Daddy intended to do it this way. Because you two have done well in life, and I've had a lot of bad breaks and bad luck, and financially I'm not doing very well. So I'm really happy that it worked out this way, that I get the house. I'm going to keep the house. It'll give me a feeling of being okay and a new start, and I really appreciate what Daddy did for me. So the moral of the story is, don't go willy-nilly putting other people's names on your accounts. Even if a friend tells you, it'll make everything much easier. Wills are wonderful, but beware, they do not control beneficiary designations, nor do they control anything in joint tenancy with right of survivorship, which is how North Carolina treats what they call joint bank accounts.